What's up, Taiwan? I'm Tiffany Wong with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan has revoked the citizenship of 3 people, including a high-profile Taekwondo athlete, after they were found to have been holding Chinese ID cards. There has been growing concern that Beijing is issuing Chinese IDs to Taiwanese citizens as a strategy to push its claim over Taiwan. Rick Glauert joins us now from our Taipei newsroom with more. Rick, what do we know about these cases?
So at least 2 of the 3 people involved in these cases were recently featured in a documentary where they were showing off that they had obtained Chinese identification documents. One person has been named as Li Dongxian. He's a famous Taekwondo athlete, and he once won a medal for Taiwan but pulled out a Chinese flag. Another person has been named as Su She'en, and the 3rd person remains unnamed. But this documentary showcased how the Chinese Communist Party has been targeting Taiwanese citizens to get them to obtain Chinese IDs. For example, when they're visiting China, they're made to fill out documents to get those IDs. But under Taiwan law, having household registration or a passport from China, which of course claims Taiwan as part of its sovereign territory, can result in having your citizenship revoked just like this.
以上是台湾身份，基本上我们就把你当成大陆人了。回到台湾，你就是要拿这个大陆的这个相关的文件来申请，才能够进来。那你的当然也不会有健保。
Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council says that it's now investigating a dozen cases like this, but by revoking the citizenship of these 3 people, it's sending a clear message that having Chinese identification documents will have ramifications for Taiwanese.
And Rick, how big a problem is this issue for Taiwan?
Well, cases like this are actually fairly rare here. There's been just over 600 in the last 10 years, but it's really hard for Taiwan authorities to investigate and find out just how big a problem this is because there is no official communication across the strait. Taiwan has no way to work with its counterparts in Beijing. But security services here have been flagging it as a danger. They said Taiwanese obtaining Chinese IDs could compromise the jurisdiction of Taiwan. For China, of course, it bolsters their claims over Taiwan if lots of people here have those Chinese identification documents and could justify more actions from Beijing. China, of course, has a whole toolkit of ways that it uses to intimidate, to pressure, to coerce Taiwan. This includes military action nearby Taiwan, cognitive warfare, economic coercion, and these tactics are constantly evolving and changing, and that's probably what we're seeing here.
Thank you, Rick. That was Rick Glauert live for us in Taipei on the Taiwanese who have just had their citizenship revoked. President Lai Ching-te has set new carbon reduction goals for Taiwan. Speaking at a meeting of the National Climate Change Committee, he specified reduction targets of about 32% in 2032 and 38% in 2035.
或许有人会觉得太少，有人会觉得太多，但是我们是负责任的盘点计划，务实提出目标。
Some environmental groups at the committee meeting called for stricter, more ambitious targets. Greenpeace called on the government to commit to zero growth in the use of natural gas beginning this year and to completely phase out coal power plants by 2035. Other environmentalists say that the country needs to work faster to meet its targets.
2035要减到52%，才有办法是符合近邻方面的路径。
Due to a 70% budget freeze on the presidential office, the 12 committee members agreed to waive their fees. The Lunar New Year travel season is already underway in Taiwan, with crowds packing the country's airports and rail stations. There are some efforts to keep the annual chaos under control, but from now through early February, people hitting the road should be prepared for long waits and even last-minute changes of plan. John Ventriez reports.
The Lunar New Year break doesn't officially start until Saturday, but this crowd of travelers hasn't waited. For many, this is a popular, if pricey, time to do some sightseeing or shopping abroad. But as everyone who travels this time of year knows, it's important to hit the road early to beat the traffic, and for air travelers, the seemingly endless security lines. At Taiwan's main international airport in Taoyuan, some people are even arriving half a day before their flights. The airport metro line alone expects to carry an average of 145,000 passengers a day over the coming 9 days of vacation. Those traveling domestically will face an even bigger crush. This is a time of year for visiting family and hometowns, and trains especially fill up to bursting. The rail network is trying to cope by increasing services. Meanwhile, the high-speed rail has a new strategy. Last year, there was some unpleasantness on this fast line linking Taiwan's main cities along the west coast as people squeezed in and competed for non-reserved seats. And this year, the line expects to carry over 1.3 million passengers during the break. So if crowds start to overflow this year, it will encourage passengers to use slower trains or buses instead. It's setting up a center in Taichung Station, roughly the halfway point on the line, that will direct passengers to other transport options. Some travelers think it's a good idea.
就等于有点疏散人潮吧。对啊，至少不会大家都挤在同一个车厢。
But giving up on the fast train could mean adding hours onto the journey, especially with traffic on the highways. And so some are skeptical of the plan.
乘客会愿意吗？会愿意就是你的指挥，然后就去搭其他的交通工具嘛？因为有可能有的其他交通工具会搭比较久。
It will be early February before things return to normal in the skies and on the rails and roads. Until then, travelers can expect lines, jams, and the need for an extra bit of patience on their journey. Luffy Li and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A federal judge in Seattle has blocked an executive order from U.S. President Donald Trump curtailing birthright citizenship, calling it blatantly unconstitutional. The judge signed a restraining order after a lawsuit was filed by 4 U.S. states. Trump's executive order aims to deny U.S. citizenship to children born there if neither parent is a citizen or legal permanent resident. This policy could impact approximately 150,000 newborns every year, leaving them ineligible for social benefits and at risk of deportation. Critics argue the order violates the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil. The U.S. Justice Department, however, defends the move as essential to addressing illegal immigration. U.S. President Donald Trump has called on NATO member states to increase defense spending to 5% of their GDP.
We're protecting them, you know. They're not protecting us, we're protecting them. So I don't think we should be spending, I'm not sure we should be spending anything, but we should certainly be helping them. But they should up their 2% to 5%.
Trump first made the comments while addressing the World Economic Forum in Switzerland by video link, and addressed NATO again while signing executive orders from the White House. Only 2/3 of NATO members reached the current 2% commitment. The U.S.'s contributions to the military alliance made up over 15% of the group's spending in 2024. Taiwan's cross-party delegation that went to U.S. President Donald Trump's inauguration is calling their visit a success.
对新政府的官员，没有包括没有包括我们新的，我们要开始展开新的接触跟新的对话。名字我们不方便说，台美之间的这些主要的官员，那我们都获得非常好的深入的交换意见。对新的一些主管亚洲事务的官员。
Legislative Speaker Han Kuo-yu led the group of lawmakers. He shared that he stood just 25 meters away from Trump at the inauguration, which had reduced capacity after a last-minute move indoors due to cold temperatures. Lawmakers also discussed double taxation relief, cooperation in pharmaceutical and AI industries, and educational exchanges with their U.S. counterparts. The delegation visited 2 major U.S. think tanks on the last day of the trip. The flow of migrants from Vietnam's countryside to the cities in search of economic opportunities appears to be reversing after nearly 3 decades. As Bryn Thomas reports, the rising cost of urban living is slowing the once reliable farm-to-factory trend.
Nguyen Thi Heap spent 16 years making shoes for brands like Nike and Adidas. She worked for Po Chen, a Taiwanese company that's one of the largest shoe manufacturers in the world. Together with her husband, she built a life in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam.
Cứ sáng mở mặt là đi, rồi tới chiều làm tới chiều về, rồi cứ vậy đó, cứ vòng xoay mà cũng rút cuộc cũng có gì thay đổi hết. Bao nhiêu năm này.
Like many in her generation, Heap left her life in Vietnam's emerald countryside for the economic opportunities offered by its bustling cities. But despite making $400 a month, a third more than the national average, she, like many of her colleagues, are finding it hard to save as the cost of living rises in the rapidly growing city.
Phí thấy nó cũng cái gì nó cũng có lên giá rồi, mình chi phí nó cao hơn à, giống như hai vợ chồng chi phí ra là thấy cảm thấy nó heo hẹp, nó không có được đầy đủ. Sao không tiết kiệm nên mình tiết kiệm, nhiều khi nó tiết kiệm sao mà tiết kiệm được. Mình nhiều khi không có tiền mà tiết kiệm nhưng mà chị nghĩ chị tiết kiệm bằng kiểu gì.
Since the 1990s, Vietnam's shift to a market-oriented economy has fueled rapid economic growth, making it a key player in global supply chains. Foreign investment and industrialization have significantly reduced poverty, with the rate dropping from over 50% in the early 1990s to approximately 3.4% in 2023. This growth has been centered in the cities, resulting in what some experts call the farm-to-factory trend.
Di cư thì họ luôn xác định đó là họ chỉ di cư vì lý do kinh tế chứ không phải là vì lý do định cư. Thì khi mà cái hết độ tuổi lao động của mình thì họ sẽ quay trở lại địa phương bởi vì cái thu nhập của họ thì không thể đủ để trang trải cho cái cuộc sống.
In Ho Chi Minh City's Binh Thanh district, where many migrant workers reside, officials say the temporary resident population has dropped by over 100,000 since 2020. Across the city, new migrant arrivals have also fallen sharply, from 180,000 in 2020 to just 65,000 last year. Experts point to rising living costs and a slow shift toward better jobs as key reasons for the decline.
Công nghiệp cao hơn thì thành phố chưa chuyển đổi đủ nhanh để tạo ra các cái việc làm nó tốt hơn.
While financial and quality of life difficulties act as a push factor, family ties and improving conditions in the countryside are proving to be a strong pull. During the COVID-19 pandemic's lockdowns in Vietnam, many migrant workers returned to their hometowns and discovered them to be much more developed.
Nói chung là ở quê bên đây nó có văn hóa, văn nghệ giống như cuộc sống nó văn minh hơn giống như về cái thời xưa. Em mới xác định đi về ngoài đó là thứ nhất là ở gần bà ngoại cũng lớn tuổi rồi mình giúp đỡ mẹ này. Thứ hai nữa là cũng có công ty đó mình đi làm nó cũng đỡ, gần đó cũng được, không có tốn này tốn kia.
Like many people in Vietnam, Nguyen Thi Hip and her family usually travel to their hometown for Tet, the Lunar New Year holiday. This year, however, she and her family won't be making the trip back to Ho Chi Minh. Instead, they've decided to stay in their hometown, where life is becoming more stable and affordable. Phu Hua Hong and Bryn Thomas for TaiwanPlus.
The death toll in a landslide in Indonesia has risen to 22, with another 4 people missing.
Jadi toko saya itu yang ke Siolir itu ke sana itu jembatan atau jalan itu sudah putus, tidak bisa apa-apa. Ini sudah 3 hari itu tidak bisa kemana-mana.
Heavy rain triggered the landslide on Monday on the island of Java, collapsing bridges and burying cars and homes. Thousands of people have been affected. Bad weather and the threat of further landslides have hampered search and rescue efforts. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we bring you to Biopark Zoo in Rio de Janeiro, where caretakers have given the animals frozen treats to help them cool down as a heat wave sends temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius. I'm Tiffany Wong. Take care and see you next time.